My name is Darren, VP of Operations with Actions of Compassion, and I've been known Shane for about 6 years now, and we basically met through the wonders of the internet, and just was able to watch his journey, and just I've been part of the team now for, like I said, ever since, and just I love all the compassionate things about the company, and Shane's drive and ambition to just really lead and drive the compassion movement around the world. So it's been a pleasure to be part of it. So with that said, Shane, certainly tell us about the whole movement, how it started, and what plans moving forward.
You're saying the cliff notes, right?
Just a minute, because we could be here much more than 30 minutes. Yeah.
So the Actions of Compassion movement started about 9 years ago. I had about 100,000 Twitter followers. I tweeted out to Twitter, I said, hey, let's all go out and do compassion. About 100, 200 people picked up. We started doing compassion around the world, all around North America, Canada. It started to pick up steam. And then we started blogging. We did a show called the Everyday Compassion Movement Show, traveled all over North America doing compassionate acts. That show went viral, got really big. We helped change lives, we helped nonprofits. And then I said, let's change Actions of Compassion into a full brand, because it just made sense. I wanted to build a people before profit business model, all from top to bottom. I wanted compassion. And of course, compassion for animals, compassion for the environment, compassion for people. So I thought, let's turn it into an entire brand. It's funny because somebody had said to me, well, do you think that's really a good name for a company, Actions of Compassion? And I said, do you really think when Richard Branson called his company Virgin, they thought it was a good name? So I thought Actions of Compassion was pretty good.
Outstanding, outstanding. So can you tell us a little bit more about, again, you started that compassion show. Is there, tell us about, maybe some of the companies you're helping, or just, whether it be the homeless, whatever, what kind of was that drive, and how was it laid out and mapped out to what you were going to do, starting with those compassion shows?
Yeah, I mean, it was really to spread more awareness across the world, to spread compassion and to change lives. For me, compassion is the highest of all elevated emotions. So when you're able to bring more compassion into the hearts of people, compassion into just every day, you start to change lives. And more people picked up. We inspired the youth. So one of the things that I found when we were doing the show is a lot of the youth would watch, and their moms would send me messages and say, oh, my little Johnny, or whatever the name is, at 10 years old, is following you. So I was still cool enough for them to actually follow, because it was still travel and stuff. So I was kind of hooking them in, because they were like, oh, look at the success these guys are having. But then they would see the underlying compassion happening. Yeah. So they would start doing compassionate acts as well too. And so that's how it started to really pick up steam. And that's what got me speaking in a lot of Rotaries, different places in the US, at some of the most successful Rotaries that I connected with people across the world. So that's kind of how the show is meant to inspire people across the world too.
Interesting. So you obviously start with the Rotaries, doing compassion. Maybe tell us a little bit more about kind of your business background as well, and how that ties into all of this.
Well, for us, the business background, like I said, is about building a human company, a people before profit business model. And so that means you put people before profits, knowing profits are going to show up on the back end, which is, I believe that's the only way to build a company nowadays. That's the fastest way to build a company. That's the fastest way to attract employees. It's the fastest way to keep people on board. And it's a values-driven company. And when you drive values and purpose in a company, that's how you grow a business. And I think everybody should be growing a business that's driving purpose and core values through the business. First, it should become the DNA of the entire business. Not an easy thing to do. It sounds simple, but when you can do it, you now have a brand. And that's the hardest thing to do, is build a brand. Actions of Compassion is a brand.
Yeah, wonderful. So, let's tell everyone a little bit more about, kind of your background, further pieces. Indigenous background. Obviously tying with the business. And we just attended a vegan expo here in Vancouver a couple of weeks ago, and we really got to meet so many compassionate people starting their vegan businesses, wanting to change the world. It was just really a culture and environment that we thought, wow, this is a wonderful community that can help us grow a movement and everything else. So tell us a little bit more, kind of maybe some of the business you came across, how they want to change the world, being in line with Actions of Compassion.
Well, I think that the vegan community does go with Actions of Compassion, hence why that community attracts to us so strongly. Of course, me being vegan for so many years, but there's in society now, and humanity, just people in general, they're trying to make the world better, the environment better. So they're looking for more sustainable clothes, more sustainable things, animal rights, right? Testing on animals is huge. If you go look in your cupboards and you start to really take out all the stuff, you're going to see how many products you have in there that are being tested on animals to develop that. So if you start to look across the board, and then of course compassion, humanity, and stuff like that. So veganism, I'm excited now because it's coming on so strong, and it's not just plant-based, because people have now a higher purpose, more core values, more values as humanity, right? We don't want to kill animals, right? Animals have hearts. Animals are like people. So it goes with what I do, actions of compassion. So it's exciting to see that community growing so strong now. When I started as vegan, years and years ago, I mean, there was
20 plus years
right,
ago.
yeah, there was a vegetable burger at Costco, right? That tasted like cardboard, right? There was nothing to choose from. So I had to figure things out to find something. Now there's lots of options. Taste is good. Companies are coming along so strong, like Beyond the Meats and Impossible Burgers and all this type of stuff. So it's really changing the dynamic of everything, which is giving more people more options, because let's face it, people still want that taste. And if you can give them that taste, then they're going to switch. For example, like if you look at the beauty industry, it's one of the fastest growing industries when it comes to vegan. And beauty industry, you got to think about it. Like, think about if you are going to put lip gloss on your lips, right? And then you're putting lip gloss on, and then you look at another product and you go, oh, this one doesn't test on animals. So you're not going to go back to the other product. That's why it's the fastest growing industry of beauty, because you don't go back to it. Of course, you're not going to choose the one that tests on animals, correct? But the food industry is a little different, because with the food industry, at times, people want that taste still sometimes. So they forget about the compassion to animals. And so they go, well, I just want that taste. Let's forget about that. So sometimes people revert back a little bit, but not as much. But the beauty industry, it's interesting because they don't revert back, because it's a pretty cut and dry thing. I either take the product that tests on animals or I don't. Which one are you going to pick? No brainer, right? Right? Don't you think no brainer?
100%. 100%, right? Well, and you touch on the businesses, the level of consciousness, which being around for several years now, I know being a high level conscious and awareness of humanity, for animals, the planet, everything else. So maybe educate us a little bit more on why you're so passionate about that high level consciousness and how you can really change the world.
That's an interesting question, because people are so unconscious and walking around that they have to become more conscious to change the world. For example, like being unconscious is just doing the same things you've always done. So you're not learning anything new, and your belief is so strong to that. So people are not willing to change their beliefs a lot. Their beliefs are so strong of what they've learned. So they just hold on to that belief and they think they're always right. I always say you should check your own beliefs all the time, including myself. I should always be checking my belief to see, okay, is this the right belief? Where did I pick this belief up? Why do I believe this? So if you look at that, and then raising consciousness is a very hard thing to do, but it's when you do it, that's how you create world change. That's how you create world peace, right? If we want to now move away and go into world peace, that's the only way, right? And so you've got to create peace in everybody around first. You've got to have compassion for yourself before you can go out and have compassion for anybody else. It's impossible. So it's helping people do that first, and then it's starting to raise a higher consciousness of just things going on in the ecosystem, in the planet, and then I have a course that you guys know, Brainwave Synergy, and in that training, a lot is raising your highest level of consciousness, and that is connecting heart-brain coherence. That is helping people move out of just living in an everyday beta brainwave state, moving into more alpha, where true transformation can happen, because transformation can't happen in a beta brainwave. So once they move into a different brainwave, then they start to develop a higher level of consciousness. And that's one of the keys to actually be able to do that. But again, it's not an easy thing to do because people are stuck in doing the same way so often. So a tip for people listening right now, they might say, okay, Shane, great, you're giving us all this information, but how do you do it, right? I know they're asking that at all. So I'll give you a tip on how you do it. Meditation, nations I call it. You say, and a lot of people say, well, meditation is that simple, but it's true, it's that powerful because you move yourself into that different brainwave. You move yourself into that different brainwave state. And so I never looked at meditation as meditation. I changed the name in our programs and called them nations, as you know, because it didn't matter to me about the name. It mattered about how we were moving our brainwaves to the next level. And hence, when we did that, then we moved to a higher level of consciousness. And you can get that through nations, through a meditation type of thing. So every night before I go to bed, I always listen to something positive that I put in my head. Every night I never miss, by the way. Like I did this 360 days in a row, never missed. Of course, you're going to change your brain. And then every morning when I wake up, I never miss. If you just do that, you change your life dramatically.
Interesting. So let's elaborate on that a little bit. So you can again let the audience know again how you can evolve even more. Tell us a little bit more. You touched on the morning and night routine. Tell us about kind of your daily routine as for discipline structure to really evolve that level of consciousness.
Well, that's about a 3-hour program. I'll tell you a little bit right now about that. It's simple. I get up, I do my nations meditations every morning, and I have my day set up the night before because I'm trying not to think. When you think, you lose 20% of energy. So I'm trying to conserve my energy every day. So I have everything mapped out the night before, so I don't have to think. I don't have to think of what clothes am I going to wear, what am I going to eat, what am I going to do this, because I drain my energy. So if I'm getting up at 4 a.m. and I'm working some nights till 10 at night, I need to conserve my energy. So that's critical for me, how to conserve my energy. Hence comes back to veganism then. I conserve my energy because I eat plant-based. It's a no-brainer. You don't put dead things in you. When you put dead things in you, you don't have energy. It's pretty not rocket science to figure that out, is it now? So that's how I keep my energy. And then the days is trying to live as much in the present moment. And we've all heard live in the present moment. But the reason I'm trying to live in the present moment is because then I don't have to think, right? And when people think, most of the times they're thinking like this. The brain predicts the future and usually the worst case scenario, and the brain lives in the past, all the bad things that happen. So when you think about that, you're setting yourself up for failure. That's a shitty life, right? Don't you think? So when you get that on track, you get that right, you're not predicting the worst, and you're not thinking in the past on a consistent basis about your problems. What do you find? Joy, happiness, peace, all the great emotions we all want.
Love, compassion, all of it, right?
There you go.
There we go. Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing more about your day and tips that can help moving forward. So let's get on to another subject, because I know we don't have much time left here, and I know this will be a big subject here. There's so much going on in the world. Wars, coming out of a pandemic. There's just a lot of people, obviously, the last couple of years, and currently, what's going on in today's world, there's a lot of stress, and there's not literally one person exempt on planet Earth. I mean, it's really touching everybody. So how do actions of compassion, and how you as a leader of actions of compassion really, how do you see the future unfolding here, and what are the kind of steps where people can, again, continue to be compassionate for each other, support one another through these very challenging times?
Well, I mean, first off, especially if we're from North America, I mean, we're just privileged to be here. So most of the people, when they start suffering, they're causing their own suffering because they are thinking about, what's not happening in my life. By the way, that's the number one cause of usually suffering, is things are not working out in your life the way you want to, so you suffer. But when you think about it, think about this, we're sitting in a room right now that majority of this world would cut their arm off just to sit where we're sitting. So when it comes to talking to people in North America, it's the fact of, you always hear it, be grateful, but it's not just saying it, it's truly being grateful for what you have. Every morning when I get up, I say I'm grateful for the clothes I have, the food in my fridge, the roof over my head. Everything else from there on is just a blessing, period. So when you start to live that way, you start to create peace throughout the world. And, in our society, we're so we're so competitive with each other, right? We don't want to help each other. And that's how our school system is too. Got to beat that kid, beat this person, beat this person, beat this person. You know, a lot of the big speakers we still watch, that motivational speak and speak business, they're like, yeah, you got to just crush everybody. So everybody falls in that footsteps still. We've got to change the conversation on that. We got to change the dynamic on that. Everybody is still old school on that, right? There's more power in cooperation than there is in being that competitive. Now, yeah, you can have your own goals. Yeah, you can try and get there, but it's that competitiveness that doesn't get us to work together as one, as humanity. Now, to finalize your question, to sum it all up, how do we change the world? How do we create world peace? It's pretty simple. Every race, every nationality, every person has to be able to sit down and have a dialogue with each other and set their beliefs aside. That's how we change the world. Because if we can't have a dialogue with each other, just because you believe this and I believe this, does not mean we can't sit down and have a discussion and still love each other. 100%. That's how we have to change it. And that's how all the races have to come together. And if we do that, we'll get that right. And I'm on a mission to do that, and we will keep doing that, and we won't stop until we do it, period.
Love that, love that. And I'd love to get you to extend on that point even further. So again, that love and compassion, we always say, it starts with yourself, compassion, leading with love, loving yourself first. So let's try and maybe break it down in 3 different elements. If we're going to have that ultimate change in result, it has to start with so touch on these 3 elements. The individual, if you go to family and friends, or workplace, and the third and final one. Let's talk a little bit more about the compassion kingdom that I know that we have going on around the world. So let's touch on those 3 points.
So an individual for compassion, of course, is what I said before. Having compassion for yourself has to start number 1, right? We just, we have to look at ourselves and have compassion for ourselves and forgive ourselves. And know we're going to make a lot of mistakes in life. That's just part of it. It's just part of growing. Enjoy the journey. The journey is such a beautiful thing in this world. It's beautiful. But for some reason, we all want more and more and more and more, which is fine to have goals, don't get me wrong. But enjoy it, because when you get there, right, and you haven't enjoyed it, that leads to bad things. Because then you go, then what? Then what? Right? So that just starts with the individual. And then what was your next one?
Well, the next part is, once you get beyond the individual, or your family, friends, or you're at a workplace, a group of small people.
So, working with people, again, I have to go back to the same thing. Working with people is communicating with each other, understanding each other, listening to each other, right? Listen more than you talk, right? Truly listen to the person. What is that person saying? Truly care about your fellow human being. Care about humanity. Don't just listen, don't just talk to talk. Be like, if you see somebody going through something, sit there and look at them and be compassionate for them and truly want to make a difference in their life. You see it in families, and even in my family sometimes, and this is interesting, when it comes to kids, right? As soon as you have kids or you have grandkids, those kids always come before everybody else, right? It's like my kids, this and that. But that other kid right beside there, you should love them just as much as you love your kids. If you love those kids the same as you love your kids, the world will change 100%. Very fast, so fast, right? And that's what we got to do. We got to teach generations and adults to understand that and do that.
100%. Love that. So let's talk.
And I say to my parents too, my brothers, the grandkids, I'm like, Mom, look at how you are leaving out these other kids now, right? You're falling into that trap. My grandkids, my grandkid, this. They're all one. We're all one humanity. It's as simple as that.
Love that. So let's touch on that one humanity. And I know we only got a couple minutes left here. So let's talk about compassion kingdom and how that kind of evolved and what the plans moving forward with compassion kingdom.
Compassion kingdom is we work to go out once a month, do something good for people in general, the world, animals, the environment, and it's about motivating other people to do the same that we do. So when we started Compassion Kingdom, it was kind of a spin-off of our Everyday Compassion shows, where we would set up, and a few months ago, we raised 300 or 250 coats for the homeless. And so when people see that stuff, they go out and do the same stuff or different stuff. We raised, the month before we did 1,000 or 2,000 sandwiches or whatever it was for the homeless. And so when we do that, it inspires more people to do it. And, I want to give a kind of a pushing tip to everybody. A lot of times people don't like to showcase their compassion, right? This is a big topic.
Yeah.
Well, you shouldn't take a picture when you're doing something compassionate. Why are you taking a video when you're doing something compassionate?
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, is it your ego doing it, or what is it?
Yeah.
And the difference now with social media and everything, when you showcase it, it inspires more people to do it, especially the next generation.
Yeah.
I know, I'm a walking example. I know the messages. I see the kids that didn't think about it before, but now go out and want to do something that normally wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
So if you're doing it for the right reasons, right? If you're not doing it for the wrong reasons to try and build a company, right? Because there is people that do it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
Start a nonprofit, start something that does good in the world just for the other side to grow their business and grow their company. They're in it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
But you can start to flush those people out pretty fast today in today's
Yeah.
society, right?
Yeah.
You got social media, you can see backstories
Yeah.
pretty fast. So I inspire people to showcase it and don't be scared, because a lot of times they send me messages and they're like, should I really post this picture? And I'm like, yeah, but we just raised 500 books
I know.
in India, right? And
Yeah.
the one, like our Compassion Kingdom went all over. It was in India. The one girl did 500
Yeah.
bucks, and she wrote me. She said, "Should I take a picture of this?" I said, "Of
course.
course."
Yeah,
Inspires the world to do
Yeah.
more, right?
Yeah.
She's very modest,
Yeah.
right? So and now she did, and other people did books too.
Yeah.
So we gotta inspire more people to do
I
it.
love that. So I know we got to wrap up here. So again, we'll certainly thank everyone around the world for being part of this. And again, my name's Derek from Actions of Compassion. And when we're going to wrap up here, we'll leave the last word with Shane here. If you're to say, give advice to everyone watching from around the world, and just any tips or just general advice, what's kind of a last kind of point you want to leave for the global audience?
We're all one humanity. We're all one. Nobody's different. To me, everybody is one race, right? Your race, everyone's the same. Everyone's just one. So if you look at everybody as one humanity, and there's no separation between us, we create change in the world. So that's my final tip. Look at everybody. It's just like you. We're all one humanity. We all got to work together. We all got to love each other. We all got to spread compassion. We all got to help each other. We all got to do what we can to make a difference in this world, so we can leave this world better for the next generation and the next generation. And that is the key. Everybody's got to step up and do their part. No part is too small. That's the last thing I'll leave. One compassionate act to one person can change the dynamic of everything. So never think, because you see somebody like me speaking right now, that your act is too small. It isn't. It's everybody that does one thing, two things, three things together that we create world change.
And I think we can all agree that the world needs love and compassion now more than ever before.
You got it, bro. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Appreciate it. Thank you, everyone.